It's time now for the Premier Podcast, the official real estate video podcast of Premier Realty Group of West Tennessee. We have 3 offices to serve you in McKenzie, Paris, and Huntingdon. Online at prealtygroup.com. Now, let's get started with today's Premier Podcast.
Welcome back to the Premier Realty Group video podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Green, the marketing director for Premier Realty Group of McKenzie, Huntingdon, and Paris. My co-host, as always, is our principal broker in the Paris office, Garry Wicker. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Kelly.
Today we're going to talk about listing your home. The agent comes in to take a look at it, and maybe it's not ready to be listed because it's a little too cluttered.
Right.
So what do? You got to declutter the home.
Right.
So who do you call to declutter the home?
Not the agent.
You don't want any part of that.
No, that's true. We don't. And so we've talked about this before. It's one of those things where a lot of times, we'll come in, we'll make suggestions. But again, while we see it, while we're looking at it through a different set of eyes, we still miss things too. So the best thing to do is get a professional.
I guess a lot of times when you're in the home every single day, you don't realize how much stuff is around you. And we collect stuff.
That's true. I mean, and we walk by stuff in our houses and we don't see it. And, if you go to somebody else's house or if somebody comes into my house, I'm going, did I miss something when they came in? You spend 2 or 3 days cleaning up for an event there at the house if you're having somebody over for some kind of birthday party or something like that. And then you go, did I miss something else? So it's always good to have that extra set of eyes come in and take a look.
Yep. So one of your options is Extreme Cleaning and Home Organization. Susan Hawks is with that company, and she joins us today. Susan, how are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you on. How did you get the idea for starting this? Is it because so many homes are cluttered, because we collect so much stuff?
Yes. Actually, it's going through pictures online. When you look at houses that are for sale, in the line of work that we do, we're always looking for homes for sale, possibly to flip. But when you go through those photos that somebody has listed and you see personal belongings or clothes on the floor or bathroom items that are out on a countertop, it just makes my skin crawl, because I think somebody went in there and decided to take pictures and really didn't bother to clean up or stage it, or, a lot of times a buyer will walk through or see a picture and they think, well, it's so cluttered, you can't see the home for the mess.
Right. And sometimes the home isn't big enough for all the stuff. So when you guys go in, do you end up throwing away a lot of stuff?
Well, that sometimes is a problem.
Yeah.
Because if people want to move, they think everything is necessary. They think, I need all of this stuff. I need it all out. And that's just not so. If it's springtime and summertime, pack away your winter clothes.
Yeah.
Get a storage unit if you can. They're really not that expensive to go in and do that. So when we've worked with people in the past, especially on either a large renovation or if they're going to be moving out of a home, one of the first things that we ask them to do is to pack up and get things moved out of the way. And so storage units, those are your go-to if you can, because you can rent those month by month. There's no lease, no contract, month by month storage, and you can access it easily. If you feel like that's something, I need that, I've got to have that. Well, it's accessible. So that's the first go-to. My
wife always hates to think we've got so much stuff we have to rent another place to put our stuff in.
Yeah, and we've done that for years. I mean, I caught myself when I closed out my other business and moved some stuff from the house or from the business there over to a rental unit, and I realized that we had that rental unit for 15 years at the time with stuff in it that I'd never touched, and it was just stuff. But, Kelly, I think a lot of that comes from the fact that, my parents lived through the tail end of the Depression. And, when they got stuff, is like, we need to hang on to this because, I may have needed one now, but I got a pack of 5, so I may need the other 4 at some time in the future. And instead of putting them, to use somewhere else, put them on a shelf somewhere. And I know just going through cleaning up from my mother's house and the stuff that my dad had left over, there's tons and tons of stuff. And I find myself doing the same thing. It's those same traits that were passed down. So, you end up with a lot of stuff that ends up being clutter, but to your eyes, it's, maybe I'll need this at some time. I paid for this once, maybe I'll need this sometime. And I know that's probably a lot of what Susan sees as well.
Yes. Yeah. Sentimental, lots of sentimental things that people don't want to part with. And that's okay. But to clear it out, to get it ready for your home to be sold is very important.
Is there a fine line between clutter and hoarding?
Oh, there's no fine line.
There's not a fine
there's
line
not
at
a fine
all.
line.
Right.
There's a definite, if you have a path that you have to go through in your house, you've definitely got some hoarding issues. And we can help with that too. I think a lot of people are maybe stuck in a cycle of they don't know, or like you said, maybe they've had someone pass away and they've inherited some things and they just don't know what to do with what they've got, or it becomes a problem where they are bound by the municipality. They don't know, where do I go with this?
Right.
Is there a dump? Is there a fee? And there's a lot of resources that we have available here in Paris. You can always call the city and they'll do a large pickup. A lot of people don't know that. The dump is a $15 minimum fee. And for a lot of people, they think, well, I don't have a trailer, I don't have a truck, I don't have a resource. And those are all things that we can help with. A lot of people want to clean out, they just don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking with Susan Hawks with Extreme Cleaning and Home Organization. How big of an area do you cover? What counties do you guys travel to?
We've worked Weakley County, Obion County, of course, Henry County, Benton and Carroll counties. So we will work just about wherever there's a need. So
Gotcha. And then after it's decluttered and after it's cleaned, that's when you can begin the staging process of the listing.
And we've talked about that a lot. When somebody comes in to look at your home, you have to realize once you've put it on the market, and I've said this time and time again, once you've put it on the market, essentially it's no longer your home.
Yeah.
It's the next person that buys its home, and they need to be able to see themselves in it. So we talk a lot of things about the personalization that's there. It's okay to have some family pictures around because it's still, they want it to see it homey. But at the same time, when it takes up a whole wall, or when it's dominating everything, then they can't see themselves there. So, that's when you get to the point of staging, and you want your staging done to the point where, you see it all the time on the television shows, the HGTV shows. But at the same time, those are professional stagers that come in and they take a while to stage. So you need somebody else with that eye that's used to doing it, somebody that can come in and get it done for you, and they may say, give me a couple hours to look at it on the front end. And then, from that point, we'll start moving things around. You don't just get rid of people's personal stuff because you may offend them, but when you've got that person that does that professionally, that helps them come in and, or they can come in and help you see what somebody else is going to see.
Yeah, and I don't think we can stress enough that staging and decluttering are two very different things.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, a move, specifically if you're selling a home, sometimes it's a fun thing. It's a very exciting time in people's lives, maybe a new job or a bigger home or just whatever that might be. But for some people, that's not a fun time. Maybe they've lost a job, or maybe they've lost a spouse. Maybe they're going to have to downsize,
right?
And so I think where we come from, we want to look at where they're going, what the need is, and how we can help them. So we don't ever go in with any kind of judgments about your situation. If it's a fun time, we want to help you and have fun with that. But if it's not, for some people it's just not, we're going to take that into consideration, obviously, and help them through that process of, maybe, like you said, taking down some of the pictures and making it less personal. That's
right.
a hard thing for some people. Or to change furniture after the loss of a loved one, to make things look more appropriate to stage it. So we've got to take those things into consideration as well.
And I'm sure every case is different, but on average, what's the timetable as far as getting the job done?
Well, it depends because we also do a lot of work with our construction company as well. So it really depends. If it's just staging, if your house is perfectly fine, you're going to pass an inspection and not have any kind of structural issues to worry about, then, it just depends on the client, how quickly they're ready to move. Some people have already got another house that they're wanting to move to, which that's great. Then we've got a place to go with the stuff. Yeah. But if we don't, then we may have to find a location and round up some friends of theirs. We do have our own crew, but some people want to involve family. So everybody's situation is different.
What are a few basic tips you can give the average person who maybe doesn't need the crew to come in but needs to declutter before the home is listed? Right. Just 2 or 3 average or basic tips you can give somebody.
If it's off season, move it out. If you've got a relative or someone that has an extra space and they're willing to let you store some things there temporarily, take them up on that. Yeah. Go ahead and move those things out. Anything that's off season, move it out.
So you're saying the Christmas tree in my basement needs to go.
The Christmas tree must go. Yes.
Or change it to an Easter tree.
There you go.
Well,
absolutely.
There you go. Make it seasonal.
That's right.
Make it fun.
Yeah. But if something, let's say you haven't used something. I think this is something I read a while back. You haven't used something in 6 months, haven't touched something in 6 months. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe it's time to throw it out.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
If you haven't, usually the general rule is if you haven't touched it in a year, unless it's something sentimental that you're keeping, an heirloom or something, then consider if donating it might be, useful to somebody else. We have so many wonderful places here in town that will help other people who maybe have a need. And so if you have something that you feel like you could donate that and make somebody else's life better, or somebody else might put it to use, that's a great time to do it. Moving is a great time to donate and get rid of things and maybe help somebody else out.
Right. I know our owner, Susan Bradbury, has had at least a couple of cases where she's walked in to list a home and there's so much clutter, so much stuff that she said something's got to be done. And she didn't really know who to call. She suggested maybe an auction, but now there's somebody to call, and that's Extreme Cleaning and Home Organization. Yeah.
Yes, I actually do have a lot of experience working with auctions.
Okay.
And so if it's something like that, if it's an estate sale that you need to have, or if it's an auction that you want to have, we can come in and help with that too. We can get you organized and know, what that auctioneer is going to want to do. We can work with the auctioneer and get things set up and have people move through there quickly to either have your estate sale or an auction. So we can help with that too.
Let's talk extreme worst case scenarios. What's the worst case scenario you've ever seen when you've walked into a house?
Floor falling in.
Oh, my.
Floor falling in, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had to bring in the construction crew for that.
Have to bring them in, yes. And a lot of times people, if they have a lot of stuff, or if they have a room that they're not in very often, and they're maybe not aware of a leak, or they're maybe not aware of structural issues going on, and you don't know until you start peeling back carpet or other flooring or whatever. But yes, flooring issues, I would say, are absolutely the worst, because you don't know the extent of the damage until you move things out. And then you see, okay, well, we've got a structural issue.
Yeah.
So that's happened several times, believe it or not.
Gotcha. That's when you bring the inspector in.
There you go.
All right.
Yep.
What's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can call me on my cell phone. You can find us on Facebook. You can email us. We have links to our email on the website, on the webpage. We are easy to find. And, of course, anybody that wants to use us through Premier Realty, you guys can contact us anytime. And we're always willing to go out, and a consultation is always free. It's always going to be free. So we can always just work with your clients and say, this is what we suggest, and they can either take that suggestion or not. Mm-hmm. But, yes.
If somebody's hoping to list their home, say, in the next 2 weeks, how quickly should they call you? Can you guys get it done that fast?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If they're local, I mean, we could even go see them within the same 24 hours and just walk through, do an assessment, and give them some feedback about what we think needs to be done. Obviously, if we are there with the realtor, sometimes that double team of, you don't want to make somebody feel bad about their situation, but definitely having that realtor there to walk through and say, this is our recommendation. We want to make sure that client is getting top dollar for their property.
Yeah.
I hate to see somebody just walk away from something as is. I hate that. Sometimes it's necessary, but if not, then let us come in and try to make sure that we've got you in the best place possible to make the most amount of money for your house.
And again, sometimes you don't realize how much clutter you have until you get a fresh set of eyeballs on it who hasn't seen it before.
Right, and that kind of goes hand in hand with what what we say as realtors. If I'm going to list your house, there's going to be a few days in there before it actually goes on the market anyway, because we want to make sure that we get the pictures and everything up and that everything hits the market at one time. Well, if this is if this is something that needs to be done, then we just we come in and we get that done on the front end, and then we come in and get the pictures, and then once it goes up, it's ready for show. I mean, it looks good. It looks good to the pictures out on the internet and on our MLS system, and that helps with, like Susan said, that helps with the value of the home, getting it sold for top dollar.
Extreme Cleaning and Home Organization. Are you guys based in Paris?
We are based in Paris. My partner, Keisha, lives out in Springville, but, she's all over Henry County and Weakley County and various counties and doing what she does. And so I've known her most of my life, and she's a wonderful organizational kind of person. She's also a get-it-done kind of person. So we share that in common, and we're just excited about a new venture together, kind of combining our skills to be able to help people do this.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely filling a need.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Any final thoughts or questions for Susan?
I don't have any.
I think we covered it.
Covered it well.
Extreme Cleaning and Home Organization, Susan Hawks, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
And thanks for watching.